Everyone wants to succeed, but most people wait for motivation to strike before they act. That's the trap. Motivation is fleeting, unreliable, and rooted in emotion. Truly separates high achievers from everyone else isn't how inspired they feel. It's the systems, discipline, and clear plans they put in place and execute day after day. As Dave Ramsey says, you don't need motivation, you need a plan. If you're tired of starting over, spinning your wheels, or feeling stuck, it's time to stop chasing feelings and start following a proven process. Motivation, by nature, is emotional and inconsistent. It often depends on how we feel in a given moment. When someone is highly motivated, they may feel unstoppable, energized by a surge of inspiration. But that feeling is fleeting. It can be triggered by a podcast, a success story, or even a personal crisis, but it rarely lasts long enough to sustain long-term change. Relying solely on motivation is like trying to build a house on shifting sand, unstable and unreliable. People often get stuck in a cycle of waiting for motivation to strike before taking action. Believe they must feel ready before they begin working on their goals, which leads to procrastination, inconsistency, and eventually burnout when results don't follow quickly. Planning, however, doesn't rely on how you feel. A plan is grounded in logic, structure, and foresight. It's a roadmap that outlines what needs to be done when it needs to be done and how it will be accomplished. With a plan, actions become scheduled instead of optional. Whether you feel like doing the work or not, the plan holds you accountable. The predictability of a plan allows progress to continue regardless of emotional highs or lows. A person with a plan doesn't need to ask themselves each morning if they're motivated. They simply follow the next step on the list. Without a plan, even the most motivated person can lose direction. They may have the energy and desire to improve their finances, health, or career, but if they don't know where to channel that energy, it fizzles out. Conversely, a person with a plan may have low motivation on some days. Their actions remain consistent because they aren't guided by emotion. They're guided by structure. The plan keeps them moving forward, and over time, progress builds confidence, and confidence reinforces action. In financial terms, as Dave Ramsey often emphasizes, a budget is a plan for your money. Without it, you spend impulsively, driven by how you feel in the moment. But with a plan, you assign every dollar a job. You know what your priorities are and where your money is going. This eliminates confusion and emotional decision-making. The same logic applies to other areas of life. Fitness, business, relationship. A plan is what sustains you when motivation fades, and it gives you a practical path to follow when your willpower is low. Discipline, which grows from following a plan, becomes the foundation for real and lasting change. Someone commits to a plan, they shift from reactive to proactive. Instead of waiting for motivation to act, they act according to a system. This reduces decision fatigue and increases productivity. Planning removes the guesswork and eliminates the need to constantly search for external inspiration. It allows you to take control of your actions rather than letting your emotions dictate them. Discipline is the consistent ability to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. Unlike motivation, which is based on emotion and mood, discipline is rooted in habit and intentionality. It's the engine that keeps you going long after the excitement has worn off. People often overestimate the power of inspiration and underestimate the strength of small, disciplined actions taken daily. Inspiration can kickstart a journey, but it's discipline that carries it to completion. The truth is, waiting to be inspired before acting can become a trap. If you only act when you're inspired, you'll rarely act at all. In practical terms, discipline shows up in the form of routines, schedules, and boundaries. It's getting up early to work on your goals, even when the bed feels more comfortable. It's saying no to unnecessary spending because you have a budget and financial goals. It's choosing the gym over the couch, reading instead of scrolling, and doing the work when nobody's watching. These small, seemingly boring choices create powerful momentum over time. While motivation asks, do I feel like doing this? Discipline says, this is what I committed to, so I'll do it. Dave Ramsey often emphasizes that success, especially financial success, doesn't come from quick bursts of excitement. It comes from consistency. For example, building wealth isn't about catching the next big break or winning the lottery. It's about sticking to a plan, saving regularly, avoiding debt, living below your means. These habits require discipline, not inspiration. Discipline creates reliability in your actions. People who rely on discipline have a foundation they can return to no matter how they feel emotionally. Discipline also strengthens over time. The more you practice it, the easier it becomes to make the right decisions. This compounding effect mirrors what happens with financial investments. Consistent effort, even in small doses, leads to significant results. The first few days of forming a habit might feel like a grind, but with repetition, discipline evolves into identity. You stop having to push yourself because the disciplined choice becomes your default behavior. This is where real transformation happens, not in the emotional highs, but in the quiet, repetitive actions that align with your values. While motivation can be helpful, it should be treated like a bonus, not a requirement. If you happen to feel motivated, great. It makes the task easier. But if you're not, discipline ensures the task still gets done. Discipline builds trust in yourself. When you follow through with your commitments, regardless of your mood, you reinforce the belief that you are capable, consistent, and dependable. Over time, this builds a strong internal foundation, allowing you to succeed in any area, whether it's finances, health, or relationships. Ultimately, the people who succeed aren't the ones who are always the most fired up. They're the ones who show up day in and day out and do what they said they would do, whether they feel like it or not. Goals without a clear plan often remain abstract wishes. People commonly say they want to get out of debt, lose weight, or start a business, but without specific steps laid out, those goals lack direction. A plan transforms a vague desire into a set of concrete, actionable tasks. It provides a path forward, a sequence of actions that bridges the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. When a goal is broken into manageable steps, it becomes less overwhelming and more attainable. Instead of focusing on the big, often intimidating end result, you focus on the next immediate action. For example, someone might set a goal to pay off $10,000 in debt. That figure can seem daunting and discouraging if viewed as a whole. But with a plan, such as Dave Ramsey's debt snowball method, it becomes a series of small victories. You list your debts smallest to largest and pay them off one at a time. Each one creates momentum and builds confidence. The goal is still the same, but the plan gives it structure, making it something you can chip away at step by step. Planning also helps identify potential obstacles and prepare for them. If you want to improve your health, simply saying, "I want to be fit," doesn't get you far. But a plan that includes meal prepping on Sundays, going to gym 3 times a week, and tracking water intake turns that desire into a process. It also exposes weak points. Maybe you realize your evenings are too busy for workouts, so you adjust to mornings instead. Without that plan, you might keep failing and not understand why. Planning brings awareness and allows for strategic adjustments. Another benefit of planning is accountability. When steps are written down and scheduled, they're easier to follow through on. It's no longer about intention, it becomes a commitment. Each small step serves as a checkpoint toward the larger goal. This also provides a psychological advantage. As you complete each step, you experience a sense of progress and achievement which fuels your motivation. You're no longer chasing a distant result, you're building it day by day. A good plan also includes timelines and milestones. This helps measure whether you're on track or falling behind. It allows you to celebrate progress, which reinforces continued effort. Without these benchmarks, it's easy to feel like nothing's happening, even when progress is being made. A structured plan ensures you can see, measure, and feel that progress, which keeps you engaged and focused. In financial planning, this idea is crucial. Saying, "I want to be rich," is not useful, but setting a budget, building an emergency fund, eliminating debt, investing consistently, those are clear steps. Each one brings you closer to the goal. You're no longer hoping to be successful, you're building success deliberately. A plan removes guesswork and puts you in control. It tells you exactly what to do next, which reduces anxiety and increases the likelihood of success. Emotions are unpredictable. They fluctuate based on circumstances, stress levels, and even the weather. If progress depends on feeling inspired or emotionally charged, consistency will always be a struggle. Execution, on the other hand, is rooted in action regardless of emotion. It's the practical side of achievement, doing the work whether you feel like it or not. Emotion may help you get started, but execution is what keeps the wheels turning day after day. Relying on feelings can lead to starting and stopping repeatedly, making it hard to build momentum. Execution ignores the emotional noise and focuses solely on what needs to be done. There are countless examples of people who feel incredibly motivated for a short period, only to burn out when results don't come quickly or when daily life gets in the way. They may start a workout program with excitement, only to quit 2 weeks in because their energy dips or their mood shifts. On the flip side, someone who commits to daily execution, whether it's working out, budgeting, or studying, builds a track record of progress, even on the days they feel tired, discouraged, or uninspired. This is how lasting change happens, not in emotional bursts, but in steady, repeated action. Execution doesn't care if you had a bad day or didn't sleep well. It's immune to excuses and resistant to emotional interference. When tasks are scheduled and responsibilities are clear, execution turns them into non-negotiables. You don't ask whether you feel like it. You just do it. This is particularly evident in financial discipline, something Dave Ramsey emphasizes. People often overspend when they're emotional, bored, stressed, or celebrating. But a written budget executed daily prevents those feelings from dictating financial behavior. You follow the plan, not the impulse. Execution also builds confidence. Every time you complete a task you didn't feel like doing, you strengthen your self-discipline and prove to yourself that you're in control. Over time, this builds an identity of someone who follows through regardless of how they feel. That identity creates momentum. You no longer see yourself as someone who starts and quits. You become someone who finishes what they start. That kind of confidence isn't built on feelings. It's built on repetition and reliability. Emotions can also cloud judgment, leading to reactive decisions. Execution, by contrast, is based on pre-decided action steps. It creates structure and predictability, which leads to better outcomes over time. In business, relationships, or personal goals, the people who succeed aren't the ones who are the most emotionally inspired. They're the ones who consistently execute, especially when it's hard. They've learned to separate action from feeling and stick to the process even enthusiasm fades. By making execution the priority, emotions lose their power to derail progress. You might not always feel inspired. With execution in place, you always move forward. The process becomes the anchor that holds everything together, regardless of the ups and downs of how you feel on any given day. Human behavior tends to default to the systems and routines that are in place, especially during moments of stress, fatigue, or uncertainty. Even the most ambitious or motivated person will eventually fall back on their habits when life gets hard. That's why having strong, intentional systems matters more than occasional bursts of motivation. You might have big dreams or strong willpower in the short term. Without a system to support those goals, execution becomes inconsistent. Systems are the backbone of sustained progress. They remove decision fatigue, automate discipline, and make the desired behavior the path of least resistance. A system is simply a set of repeatable actions that support a long-term goal. For example, if the goal is to save money, the system might include automatic transfers to savings, regular budgeting sessions, and using cash envelopes for discretionary spending. Each of these actions, done consistently, contributes to the larger goal. When these systems are strong, you don't have to rely on willpower or emotion to make the right choice. The system makes the right choice automatic. It also protects you during low-energy moments. When motivation is low, the system still carries you forward. Dave Ramsey's financial principles work so well because they are system-based. The baby steps offer a clear, progressive structure that anyone can follow. It's not about waking up every day feeling excited about money management. It's about committing to a process. Each baby step builds on the one before it, creating a system that leads to financial peace. People who stick to this plan don't have to think about every little decision. They know what's next and simply follow the plan. That's the power of a system. It simplifies the path to success. Systems also create accountability. When your behavior is structured, it's easier to notice when you're off track. If you have a system of reviewing your budget every Friday and you miss a week, it becomes obvious. If your approach is random and unstructured, it's easy to fall behind without realizing it. Systems create checkpoints that help you course correct quickly. They bring order and visibility to your progress. Another key benefit is that systems reduce the emotional weight of decision-making instead of facing a series of daily choices. Should I go to the gym today? Or can I afford to eat out tonight? The system answers those questions ahead of time. This eliminates internal debates and frees up mental energy for other important tasks. Over time, the system becomes part of your identity. You're no longer someone trying to work out. You're someone who works out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You're not someone trying to save money. You're someone who lives on a written budget every month. When challenges arise, and they always do, you don't rise to your most inspired version of yourself. You revert to your preparation, your habits, and your systems. That's why strong systems aren't just helpful. They're essential. They determine your baseline behavior, and that baseline is what shapes your long-term outcomes. Taking responsibility shifts the focus from external factors to internal control. When you have a plan and choose to follow it, you're no longer at the mercy of circumstances, emotions, or excuses. You recognize that your results are a direct reflection of your actions. Blaming a lack of motivation becomes irrelevant because the plan provides clear direction. Excuses lose their power when a structure is in place. For example, saying, "I don't have time," gets replaced by, "I didn't prioritize this," which is a much more honest and empowering statement. Responsibility forces a higher level of self-awareness and maturity. Plans expose patterns. If you're not sticking to your financial goals, a budget reveals where the breakdown occurs. You can't claim ignorance when your plan is written down and your numbers are tracked. This transparency makes it harder to hide behind vague reasons like "got busy." The plan gives you data to work with and shows you the gap between intention and execution. Responsibility is about owning that gap, not blaming external situations. It's easy to say you're too tired or unmotivated, but when your plan shows that you consistently skip scheduled tasks, the evidence demands accountability. Dave Ramsey often stresses that financial freedom begins when you stop making excuses for your money mistakes. You can't change what you don't take ownership of. People who get out of debt and build wealth aren't the ones with perfect lives. They're the ones who take responsibility for their decisions and create a plan to move forward. Responsibility means recognizing that your actions today directly shape your future. It's not about guilt or shame. It's about control and clarity. Excuses tend to be emotional and reactive, while responsibility is intentional and grounded. Excuses often involve blaming others or waiting for better conditions. Responsibility says, "What can I do right now with what I have to move forward?" That mindset creates momentum. Even if circumstances aren't ideal, taking responsibility allows you to make progress. A written plan turns that mindset into actionable steps. Instead of being stuck in a loop of frustration, you break free by doing the work. Regardless of motivation levels, responsibility also builds integrity. Following a plan, even when no one's watching, demonstrates internal strength. It shows you can be trusted with your goals, your commitments, and your future. Over time, that integrity compounds into real results. You become someone others can depend on, but more importantly, someone you can depend on. That sense of self-trust grows every time you choose action over excuse, commitment over comfort. Every plan comes with challenges. Responsibility turns those challenges into learning opportunities. You don't abandon the process when something doesn't go perfectly. You adjust, improve, and keep moving. People who take responsibility don't need perfect conditions. They succeed because they stick to the plan, hold themselves accountable, and choose progress over perfection. In the end, it's not about what happens to you, how you respond. And the plan becomes a structure that supports that response. Clarity eliminates confusion and hesitation. When you have a clear plan, you know exactly what to do next, which removes the burden of indecision. Most people fail to act not because they're lazy, because they're uncertain, they don't know where to start or what steps to take stall. A detailed plan eliminates that fog. It gives you specific actions, deadlines, and measurable targets. That level of clarity turns vague goals into something you work toward with confidence. Instead of asking, "What should I do?" you simply look at the next step and take it. Confidence grows when actions lead to visible results. Each time you complete a small planned task, you gain evidence that you're capable of making progress. That progress reinforces belief in yourself. Without a plan, progress is harder to see and track, which leads to self-doubt. You might feel like you're working hard but getting nowhere. With a clear structure in place, you can point to what's been done and what's coming next. This removes the guesswork and increases your belief that your effort is paying off. It turns hope into certainty and certainty into momentum. A written plan also simplifies decision-making. You no longer need to debate every choice because the plan already includes the right course of action. This is particularly helpful when emotions are high or motivation is low. If your plan says review budget every Friday or exercise at 7 a.m., then the decision has already been made. You follow the plan, not your feelings. This reduces mental fatigue and preserves willpower, which further boosts confidence. You're not wasting energy deciding what to do. You're executing what's already been decided. Clarity also prevents overwhelm. When you look at a major goal, paying off debt, starting a business, losing weight, it's easy to get intimidated. When that goal is broken down into clear, actionable steps, it becomes manageable. You no longer feel like you're facing a mountain. Instead, you see a path. Each step is achievable, and that visibility gives you the courage to keep moving forward. As each step gets completed, you feel more in control, more grounded, and more capable. Dave Ramsey's financial advice is rooted in this idea. The baby steps are intentionally simple and clear. You don't have to guess what to do next. You follow the steps one at a time. This kind of clarity empowers people. It helps them believe that change is possible because the path is visible. Confidence isn't built from shouting affirmations. It's built by seeing results one clear step at a time. When you have clarity, you stop spinning your wheels. You become focused and intentional. That focus allows you to cut through distractions, say no to things that don't align with your goals, and build momentum that sustains itself. The clearer the plan, the easier it becomes to trust the process, and that trust is the root of lasting confidence. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, and that belief becomes the engine that drives real transformation. Success doesn't come to those who wait for the perfect mood or moment. It comes to those who build a plan and commit to it with discipline, clarity, and responsibility. Motivation may spark the idea. It's consistent action that turns that idea into reality. As Dave Ramsey teaches, the path forward isn't about feeling inspired every day. It's about creating systems that work, owning your decisions, and executing your plan no matter what. When you stop depending on motivation and start depending on your strategy, that's when real lasting transformation begins.